This podcast is brought to you with limited interruption by Rudy Luther Toyota. Whether looking for an exciting brand new Toyota, a certified pre-owned vehicle, or getting quality routine maintenance and service for your vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota is the place to go. Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley. Broadcasting live on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. Broadcasting in the evenings on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. And in the nighttime, 1150 AM, KKNW in Seattle. It's the Matt McNeil Show for your Thursday. Good to have you with us. Cliff Schecter will join us here in about a half an hour to talk about some politics. I got a humdinger of an observation coming up here in the 4 o'clock hour about Minnesota politics. Patrick, how are we today?
Doing pretty well. How are you today?
I'm doing okay. This has been a god-awful busy day for me. I've been running around in 1,000 different things, trying to get a bunch of stuff done. This is like the first time I feel like I'm relaxing. I'm just going to take it easy the rest of the show. It's been hectic. I got dancing tonight. I can't tell you how happy I am. I took some dancing classes. I am taking some dancing classes, but it was one of those things. No, it's not like I'm going to be, unbuttoned shirt guy, satin shirt, whipping people around on the dance floor. It's not exactly, I'm not going to be like Silver Linings Playbook either, but it's just something that we wanted to do, and I enjoy doing it. And my wife and I, when we were at the state fair, they had a big band that was playing. And we went out and danced, and we were like, wow, when did we actually get good? We actually were. It's coming through. Okay, I'm Frankenstein. I'm serious. Me on a dance floor, dance, rhythm, No, it actually is even worse than that. But apparently, you can train an old dog a new trick, and I have. Have you ever done any dancing or anything like that?
I have not. I think I've had friends who were into the swing dancing thing,
Yeah.
but I just never, unfortunately, got into that kind of stuff.
When you were in school, did they make you dance in gym?
Probably at some point, but I can't specifically tell you. Yeah, they did that in like 8th grade. I can't tell you that.
I do remember that, and that was like one of the first times you realized, oh, I'm not the pretty person, because it was like 7th or 8th grade, and they're like, all right, match up with a boy, and like 8 girls go for this one guy, and I'm just here waiting for anybody who wants to dance with Frankenstein. Hey, as long as you don't have a torch and pitchforks, I'm fine. Wait a second. Maybe I'm not as attractive as I think I am. All righty. I'm dancing with the teacher. Okay, fine. Not the first time I've done that. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. I'm doing that because I got dancing tonight. I'm going to go dancing. Costa Rica Ballroom. I'm going out there. I'm going to be... The great thing is the instructors look so much better than I do, and yet they never once say, wow, really? That's always been thank you. I'm glad I am not the eyesore that I could be. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. We should do. Let's do this. Let me pull up CNBC here, and just take a look-see-poo at where our stock is of the day on Donald J. Trump. Because it wasn't doing too good. Oh, there it is. It was for the day. It was up 42. It was up 42 cents for the day, but it's already down 5 cents after hours. So there's a thing called volume on the stock exchange. That's basically the amount of activity that's going around with any stock, sells, buys, that sort of thing. The volume of stuff. I was looking at his volume. And it was unbelievable how much volume was on the stock exchange of this, which basically tells me this. Donald Trump has called up all of his, hello, billionaire buddy. It's me, Donnie T. Hello. I need to take $1 million or so and go buy my stock and prop it up for me so I can sell it at a profit and get away from it. And yeah, you're going to lose a bunch of money, but love me, America, mega. That's what it screams to me. His volume, his stock is at $17 a share. Reddit, which is at $54 a share, had half the volume. It just is. They are making calls. I need you to make a donation to the Trump campaign by buying Trump stock. They have to. You see, they have to get it up to. I think by the end of this month, he can start selling it at the end of this month, and he clearly is going to have to. I mean, he just does not have the money, and so he desperately is trying to get that stock back up in price beforehand. Once again, a stock, if it's worth $5 a share now, I'd be surprised. Anyone that bought it at 70, you're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot. You thought that was going to be a good idea. Even if it was available for, say, $4 a share, I wouldn't buy it because it's Trump and Truth Social, for goodness sakes. They disgust me. I would never buy the product. But he desperately has to keep it somewhere close to where, just now he's down, to less than, over 2/3 of his value is gone. He needs the money. He needs the money, whether it's for his campaign or whether it's for, his trials and the civil cases he has to pay money out for. Yeah. Anyway, he today decided to share with us the other economic juggernaut of stupidity, Elon Musk, and what his plans for Elon would be. Now, I want to remind you, Elon Musk took over Twitter, which was a $44 billion company. I saw one estimate, it's down to about $4 billion. They just are not making any money. They are just not making any money whatsoever. And that's what happens when your site becomes the most attractive posts on Twitter today are the insanely misogynistic dudes who are like, show me your body. That's the least offensive. The racism, the pro-Nazi stuff, the bigotry, it's just a cesspool of hate right now. That's what Twitter has become. It's a cesspool of hate. And it's not going to that's not going to turn around either. And my gut feeling is that I think Elon Musk is going to try everything in his power to fix the election with Twitter, including misinformation campaigns. And then the second the election is over, when he gets when Trump loses to Kamala Harris, he's going to. I have no idea where you're talking about. We were always a neutral party. I'm selling Twitter because he doesn't want anything to do with it. It's been a massive failure. On top of that, Elon Musk's track record, the Cybertruck. That is one of the worst business decisions ever, was releasing the Cybertruck. It's got so many problems. It makes a Chevy Citation look like a decent car. And if you're old as like I am, and you remember how the Chevy Citation was a horrific car. That was Chevy's attempt to get into the hatchbacks, and it was just a mess. But that car at least drove every once in a while. You could go through 2 or 3 inches of snow in a Chevy Citation. You can't in a Cybertruck. Oh, God. It just, yeah. So Elon Musk is not exactly the guy I would bring on, but Trump has plans for Elon. Trump said during an economic speech on Thursday that if elected to his administration would create an Elon Musk-inspired government efficiency commission that would audit U.S. agencies. Now, reminder, he took over Twitter, immediately fired like half the staff. And then apparently, and I don't know if this is true or not. I saw this and I was not really reported, but apparently he had to bring a lot of these guys back because the mainframe infrastructure of the social media site was collapsing. And if not for the engineers that basically knew how the system operated, helping to get it back up and make sure it was reinforced, for lack of a better way to say it, it would have completely collapsed. And like I said, I have not seen anything on that. That was one. I remember reading that. I don't know if that was true, but they had a lot of problems early on after he canned a bunch of people. And so this is the guy, a guy who has proven that and it's the standard Republican thing. It's like they don't want to acknowledge that after Reagan fired all the air traffic controllers, the American airline industry did not work. I think it was like at 62% efficiency until Bill Clinton hired them all back. The American airline industry did not have a lot of problems before Ronald Reagan, and then Reagan fired all the air traffic controllers, and then it became a mess, and it was a mess for a long time, and it still hasn't really gotten much better. But they don't want to focus on the fact that he created the mess. They love the narrative of he was a tough guy. That is what they like, and of course Elon is their new golden idol. Trump backed the idea first pitched by the Tesla billionaire weeks ago before a group of high-profile academics and business leaders at the Economic Club of New York. Musk has said that his commission would aim to examine how agencies are spending money and eliminate unsensible spending. Dear Lord. I will create a government efficiency commission. Tasked with conducting a complete financial and performance audit of the federal government and making our recommendation and drastic reforms. Doesn't sound totalitarianistic at all, does it, guys? No. Trump also said he would make America the world capital for crypto and Bitcoin. Ah! Holy God. A line that got applause from the audience. The make-believe money, yay! I'll tell you what, why don't you just go to your Monopoly game you have in your house, pull that money out, because that's about as real as Bitcoin is, okay? Trump also said the nation should have sovereign wealth fund created with revenue generated from his tariff proposals. The profits, Trump said, could be used to pay down the debt. Notice, by the way, once again, you put the tariffs on him, guess who's going to be paying for it? That's right, all of us consumers. So basically, he's going to tax us through tariffs, tax the American people through tariffs, and then basically pay down the deficit, which is created worse because he gave all the money to the millionaires and billionaires. Musk pitched the idea to Trump last month during an interview he hosted with the former president on X after the Wall Street Journal first reported earlier Tuesday that Trump's plan to adopt Musk's proposal. Musk said, I look forward to serving America. The opportunity arises. No pay, no title, no recognition is needed. No, nor are you, really. He's already pitched his role there. God, he's just a character from a dictatorship, doesn't he? Trump's speech was light on details how such a commission might work, how it ultimately gets staffed and directed to yet to come. But it's a fantasy. They just start cutting, and then all of a sudden, when no one's getting any services, say, well, that's what happens. That's what happens. Yeah. Crazy. Freaking. Who is even thinking of voting for this guy at this point? How drunk are you? Ugh, it's the Matt McNeil Show. Like she wearing no clothes when she going so low. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Wow, I got one that's breaking here, which is just kind of hard to. Once again, it's just amazing how bad Trump's lawyers are. And this is okay. So they are back in D.C. right now with the January 6th trial with Trump, and the special counsel is trying to make arguments on this case. The defense made this statement: Justice Thomas directed us to raise this issue. The judge interjected, he directed you to do it? The defense, well, he didn't direct us to do it. Oh my God. So Justice Thomas has been consulting with Trump to help him in his legal cases. A Supreme Court justice has apparently, and once again, the defense was the ones that blabbed on this one. Okay. I'm somewhat stunned that this has not been more of a Supreme Court justice apparently has been in contact with the president who tried to overthrow the government of the United States. His wife, who, by the way, once again, his wife is an active supporter of the overthrowing of the United States. That hag. And apparently, he directed us. Justice Thomas is this pro bono work that he's doing? Bonehead, maybe. That is, once again, the defense admitted this in court. Justice Thomas directed us to raise this issue. He directed you to do it? And that's what, he didn't direct us. Good. I don't think you guys understand how the Jedi mind trick works. Okay. Who? What? I think they're going to do that Dave Chappelle thing where he tips over the pitcher and they all run for the doors. Oh, my God. It is, yeah. Justice Thomas directed us to raise the issue. The judge. He directed you to do it? Defense. Well, he didn't direct us. Yeah, that is, oh, God. Oh, God. But it brings up the point. Let me get into his wife, the treasonous hag. It is amazing that there has been no consequences for either one of them in what is clearly a massive conflict of interest. Ginny Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, privately heaped praise on a major religious right group for fighting efforts to reform the nation's highest courts, efforts sparked in large part by her husband's ethics lapses. I'll tell you what, they're flowing out of him like an RV on America's highways, aren't they? Oh, see the sights. Thomas expressed her appreciation, this is Ginny Thomas, in an email sent to Kelly Shackelford, an influential litigator whose clients have won cases in the Supreme Court. Shackelford runs the First Liberty Institute, a $25 million a year organization that describes itself as the largest legal organization in the nation dedicated exclusively to defending religious liberty for all Americans. Well, not all Americans, just I'm going to guess it's mostly the Christian ones. But I don't know. I can't say for sure. Shackelford read Thomas's email aloud on a July 31st private call with the group's top donors. Thomas wrote that First Liberty's opposition to court reform proposals gave a boost to certain judges. According to Shackelford, Thomas wrote in all caps, "You guys have filled the sails of many judges. Can I just tell you, thank you so much." Now, once again, this is a group that's exclusively dedicated to defending religious liberty of all Americans, and here they are trying to stop court reform. So they're not just for that, they're for right-wing talking points. Shackelford said he saw Thomas's support as evidence that judges who can go out into the political sphere and fight were thankful for First Liberty's work to block Supreme Court reform. It's neat that those of you that care call on the call that are part of protecting the future of our court, and they really appreciate that. On the same call, Shackelford attacked Justice Elena Kagan as treasonous and disloyal after she endorsed an enforcement mechanism for the court's newly adopted ethics code in a recent public appearance. He said that such an ethics code would destroy the independence of the judiciary. This past weekend, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said she too was open to enforceable ethics code for the Supreme Court. After the call, First Liberty sent a recording of the 45-minute conversation to some of its supporters. ProPublica obtained that recording. Like I said, these guys are not the smartest people you'll ever meet. Ginny Thomas, of course, did not respond to repeated requests for comment. First, I'm serious. If the Democrats get the Senate and impeach this guy and pull him out, or the House, get the House and the Senate, impeach this guy, because he clearly, my guess is going to be, if he gets impeached in the House and he has to go defend himself in the Senate, he'll resign from the court as opposed to have to explain RVs and advising Donald Trump on legal matters. First Liberty Institute did not directly respond to ProPublica and document its questions about the recording. Hiram Sasser, an executive general counsel at First Liberty Institute, said in a statement, First Liberty is extremely alarmed that the leftist attack, mind you, once again, they only reported on the meeting they proudly had, is extremely alarmed at the leftist attack on our democracy and judicial independence. It is fighting to bring attention to this dangerous threat. It's shameful that the political left seems perfectly fine destroying democracy to achieve the court's decisions they favor instead of working through democratic and constitutional means. Yeah. The July 31st, mind you, this is the right are the ones that tried to overthrow the government of the United States when they lost in 2020. Democratic and constitutional means. The July 31st call led by Shackelford came shortly after Biden had announced support for a slate of far-reaching Supreme Court changes. Biden endorsed term limits for justices, a constitutional amendment reversing the court's recent presidential immunity decision, and a binding ethics code for the court's 9 members. Kagan's comments came before Biden's. She did not mention any of the structural proposals Biden endorsed. I'm going to guess that Clarence Thomas was out in his RV and got texted as he was swimming or fishing at some private, billionaire's resort where the private billionaire's got 3 cases coming up in front of the court here. And, hey, let's get you some more filet mignon, man. All right? All right. Great, man. The defense team, Trump's defense team. Justice Thomas directed us to raise this issue. The judge, he directed you to do it? Defense. Well, he didn't direct us to. Okay. When you get in bed with the stupidest people in the world, this is what you get. Unbelievable. Cliff Schecter when we come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. Waiting for Cliff Schecter. Hopefully he'll be joining us here fairly soon to talk about various things. But I wanted to bring in, once again, one of the things which is truly amazing if you've not seen this. Because Governor Walz is not like anyone else that you've ever seen doing politics. He's not like anyone else. He's out in Pennsylvania. He's out there. He's dealing with the various folks that are out there in regards to talking to farmers. He's at a dairy farm, and they're going to feed some calves, and he's got the big bottle, like it's a big baby bottle, right? And watch Walz. He clearly knows what he's doing, and very compassionately helps the cow get onto the nipple of the milk jug and get the milk, and then starts talking like he's done it 100 times. And the first thing I said to myself is, could you ever see Vance or Trump doing anything like that? It's so natural and so real to watch him do this. Vance would look at him and go, you're a cow. How long have you been a cow for? And you're like, oh my God. Cliff Schecter, I imagine, has something to say about this. Cliff Schecter, of course, the Cliff's Edge is the YouTube page. Not only subscribe to the YouTube page, but he's got his Patreon there. Make sure you subscribe to that. Help bring more great content from Cliff Schecter out there by going to Cliff's Edge on YouTube. Hi, Cliff.
Hey, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing well. Have you ever given a milk bottle to a calf before? Could you do that? If someone said, here you go, here's a milk bottle, there's a calf, make sure the calf gets the milk.
I think I did that. Yeah, actually, we went out to the western part of Ohio.
Okay.
This is now a decade and a half ago. I was the comms director for the state treasurer here. And so he was out campaigning, and I'm pretty sure that I did that. It's hard to remember, but we definitely were among the various animals, among the cows and the sheep and I just can't help it. Like, my wife makes a joke that, we've got cats who I love, but we don't have any dogs. My wife makes a joke that we have at our house, we go to the dog runs up to me because it senses that I love them, because I do. I like animals, actually, I think, better than people. Certainly better than MAGA people by a lot. So, I mean, if you're a Tim Walz kind of guy, you can do that. Now, look, in J.D. Vance's defense, I'm pretty sure there are a couple sofas that have had some really nice, smooth nipples that he's gotten in on. So you can't fully count him out when it comes to nipples.
Well, I will say this. If you're talking about how the GOP, if anyone wants to get mad at Cliff for his comment about animals and the GOP, Kristi Noem gravel pit. That's all we have to say. The gravel pit with Kristi Noem. These people, yeah.
I wouldn't say on here, Matt, what that made me want to do.
Oh, yeah.
Because when I heard that with that dog,
and the goat.
I'd like her to someday have the fear that dog may have had. And I'll leave it at that, because you hear that the Huckabee family killed, one of those sons killed a dog. I mean, you see this again and again. With because you get a sign of loving animals is a sign of empathy and compassion. And MAGA losers who walk into donut shop and say, "Hello, may I have the glazed, or should I do something else?" don't really know how to empathize and get along with people. Part of having an EQ, where you know how to relate to other people, is having the ability to relate to other people. And if you can't relate to them, you ain't relating to animals. So, Tim Walz went there. I mean, if J.D. Vance went there, man, there'd be milk squirting all over the place. Thing would be kicking him in the face to get off of it. I mean, it'd be unbelievable. Probably a lot like what J.D. Vance experienced in college, actually.
Have you ever seen a candidate, vice president or president, who, I want to be careful here, because I don't think, not everyone is unattackable. But, they've come after him lately. Here are the big things. Of course, when he was a kid, he threw up in a station wagon. That he uses a straw, that he waves at people too much. This is clearly the technical example of grasping at straws. And the reason why is that they don't know how to attack him. They don't know how to go after him, because he is one of the most realistic human beings that's ever run for one of these seats, at least in my lifetime.
Yeah, well, I think they've had trouble with both of them. Tim Walz, even that funny song, which has been like one of my most viral videos. I don't know if you saw the one by Nick Offerman about being a Kamala man. Was like, in the middle, found a way to say, "I'd like to have a beer with this guy," or something with Walz. I mean, Walz is just somebody, it's so funny. The old Republican test, they used to love doing that one when the Democrats were the more stiff ones, like John Kerry. Yeah. Like, who'd you like to have a beer with? You never hear that anymore. I mean, like J.D. Vance, no. I'm sure there are a lot of people that didn't show up for beers with J.D. Vance through his entire life, which is why he hates all women. And Donald Trump's the type of guy that would sit there, drink your beer, and make you pay for it, and probably insult your wife and then walk out. So I don't really, they're awful. They either are completely socially inept, or they're complete a-holes. I think I can say that.
Yeah, you've got
or there's some combination of both.
Yeah.
In Donald Trump's case. And so, we've been heading towards this for a while, and we're at almost the purest distillation. And you've talked about this very eloquently. It even fit movies like Armageddon into it. You've talked about this, and I've spoken about it too, which is they are the party of now. They are a collection of losers, of deplorables. Yeah. So to say every Republican is certainly not every Republican, and there are some people that sadly just my dad voted Republican and my granddad, so I'm going to. I'm not saying it's but the core people that show up to MAGA events and believe in their stuff, that core 30% or whatever, are the losers among us. The people they're the dispossessed, the jobless, or the angry, the resentful, the ones that didn't have any friends in high school, the ones that have some psychosexual weird thing going on where they either can't accept that they're gay, or they can't accept that sex is an act between men and women and it just scares them, and so they're incels. There's just something strange and weird and off about all of them, and MAGA is like flypaper that's attracted all of them, which is why so many of them also are criminals and are ethically challenged and the rest of it. And so what do you get on the other side? The other folks, Tim Walz. You brought him up, Kamala Harris. When did you turn black? Yeah, that was an effective attack. You laughed too much. Well done there, guys. They've been failing as badly with her, and they've admitted it. Like I was reading an article, they're hoping for a Hail Mary, so just prepared for God knows what for Trump to do, although I'm sure he'll go too far as usual because he's a toddler and it'll backfire on him, but in the debate, because they see that as their only chance at this point.
Well, and you're smart enough. You follow this stuff. My guess is going to be is their lack of being able to connect with a hit on either one of them is going to lead down about 2 weeks before the election, mid-October. It's going to go really ugly. I mean, they're just going to go racist 101. It's going because they're going to be so desperate at that point that they'll only go into their wheelhouse, which is, not every Republican is racist, but the racists vote Republican. Let's just be honest about it. And so they'll just go down to that well where they'll know they're just reaffirming that one niche group within the party, and it's just going to get ugly.
Well, as I said, look, they're all angry, resentful losers, and it's not just the two on the ticket. Yeah. It's the ones who they have as surrogates on TV. I mean, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Tom Cotton. I mean, is there a likable person among that group? So they'll have all these people like that out there, and these are all immoral, obnoxious, despicable. Every one of those people has been disavowed by people who helped them get to where they got to. John Danforth wants nothing to do with Hawley. George W. Bush, who Ted Cruz worked for, said he hated him. I mean, these are just despicable, horrible people. And so, no, you're right. What depth will they not sink to? They'll sink to any depth that they can sink to. And I mean, look, we've seen the depths that Donald Cruz. That's actually a good combo, the two of them. Yeah. Donald Trump and that would be, by the way, Donald Cruz, the worst human being ever created.
The worst.
You can combine those two. That's the only way he could get worse than either of them.
The absolute polar opposite of a Reese's peanut butter cup. Trump Cruz. Oh God.
Well done. Yeah, that's known as the Reese's vomit cup. Is what it is. They give it to you, and you immediately. It's like the Reese's Epicac. Cup.
It's the grapes.
You take it and you hurl.
The grapes and toothpaste candy bar of America. Yikes. Harris has been doing a great job. She has.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, it's very interesting to watch the behind-the-scenes stuff. The Republicans have pulled out of New Hampshire. Basically, they're giving up in New Hampshire. I can tell you right now, they're not doing that much here in Minnesota, Virginia as well, where they thought they might have a chance. There are states. I mean, they're really focused
all
on
those lean Democratic swing states are gone.
Yeah.
They're now trying to hold lean Republican swing states, a few of which they're in trouble in. I mean, North Carolina, they're clearly in trouble in.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a poll that's had Trump ahead there in a while. They've all had Kamala ahead. And again, I told you, look, they picked J.D. Vance. I don't know what Tim Ryan's staff was doing. But when the new thing comes out, when he ran for the Senate, every day about something horrible he said about women without children, and other, we're adding other groups to that now too. Like I think J.D. Vance, now that more people have learned who he is, has heard him in Ohio. They're running ads here. What that should tell you, if they're running digital ads here, is they're not comfortable. And Kamala started that bus tour in Palm Beach. Should tell you it ain't comfortable in Florida for them either. So I mean, they're trying to fight to hold on to those places, and then also grab Arizona or Nevada or Georgia or Michigan. I don't even think. I mean, if people come out and vote, everybody does their part. From what I've seen, and I'm not sure Michigan and Wisconsin are even in play anymore. I think Pennsylvania may sort of slightly be, and obviously we need to hold that. And then I think we'd have it with the one electoral vote. If we win the Omaha vote, we'd have 270. But we need to obviously you don't want it to be even close. So Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, Georgia. These are all important because we need to blow this punk out and his whole stupid, inebriated toddler-like movement of pig ignorant fools, so that maybe they sit around and think a little bit about what they allow a political party to become, a cult, and maybe reconstitute into something that resembles a political party in the United States of America.
And you and I mean, we've been following this long enough. And you brought the same about ad spending in Ohio, in Florida, in Texas. They're buying ads in Texas. If you're having to spend ads money in Texas, that's money you're not spending elsewhere, and that's not something that was on their game plan. But you're right. They are focusing on those 5 states you brought up, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, where they have to clean sweep those. And if
Correct.
you get to a point where every bit of force you have is on states and you can't lose one of them, you and I have seen this before, that's dead man walking as far as a political campaign.
It is, and what it usually means also, as you said, they're spending money in these three key states, Ohio, Texas, and Florida, but he's not doing events for the most part in them. He did one here at one point, but whatever. They're not doing a lot in them otherwise. I don't know of turnout operations. So what that means is you could be in for a real surprise if you're only up by 2 or 3 points, and suddenly, Florida comes out from under you, or Texas or Ohio, and it very much could happen because they can't pay attention to these at all, really, because they're having to pay attention to the other ones. They're spending most of their money on Trump's legal bills, I think they're spending some amount on it on trying to make Lara Trump not sound like a screaming banshee when she sings. Not sure what they spent on that. It was not spent well, but
the auto-tune quit.
I mean, again, like I don't know if you watch the show The Boys. It's violent.
Yes.
It's not for everybody, but it parodies this age so well because these superheroes who aren't really superheroes, they're evil people with powers, are really supposed to be based on our politicians and the Homelander guy. The bad Superman is supposed to be like Donald Trump and whatever. And all of them, while they're doing their superhero stuff, but they're hurting people, they're also filming fake movies and putting out videos. And it's like they're a parody of what the Republican Party is in our country at this point. And yet the RNC and Lara Trump and Donald Trump have found a way to parody The Boys parodying them. He's out there pushing these NFT cards. She's singing with that god-awful scrape metal against each other voice of hers. I mean, you're the chair of the Republican Party. We're 60 days out from an election, and you're releasing videos? What is wrong with you? I mean, they're just the griftiest of griftopia, like this cheesy, gauche, disgusting family, like that has no values whatsoever. I mean, it's amazing.
Cliff Schecter joining us. And by the way, The Boys is fantastic, but it is hyper brutal. So just FYI, not for the kiddos.
It's very violent.
It is very good. Cliff Schecter is not violent. He's straight on and absolutely sensational. Cliff's Edge is the YouTube page. Let's take a break. We'll come on back. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday. Good to be with you, Chicago, Seattle, and Minneapolis, St. Paul. Cliff Schecter, kind enough to join us. Cliff, really quick here, let's make sure I mention the Patreon for Cliff's Edge. Cliff's Edge, of course, is your fantastic YouTube page. You got great videos up there. That Nick Offerman one is brilliant. You've put a few of mine out there. Our friend Matt Robinson is on there as well. So there's all sorts of great content on there, as well as you also have a Patreon page, right?
I do. And it's just patreon.com, Cliff's Edge, so similar thing. Or even at YouTube, people can become members directly through YouTube. They can choose whichever one. And we're going to start producing extra videos on the side, extra content, stuff based on my inside knowledge, having, been a DC guy and some of these people that are now famous or more to the point, infamous, either debated or argued with in green rooms or told them to go do things to themselves that are anatomically impossible. And I'll tell those stories. So fun. Like the time I got in a fight in the green room with Kellyanne Conway. You'll want to hear all about that.
Oh, wow. All righty. Hello.
Not a physical fight, to be clear. She's a sort of Skeletor-ish. I wouldn't want to. Okay, I'm stopping now.
Really quick here, final point with you, the debate. Harris, I think, she's playing it right. She comes out, she says, the rules for the ABC debate, they're go against me. This is going to be tough on me. Today, a Trump spokesperson's out there saying, Trump's going to dominate her. What you do not do before a debate is talk about how you're going to wipe the floor with the other guy. You tone it down, keep your expectations in check, because it really can, the only way it can go is down if you try to oversell it.
I mean, we didn't talk about the whole Russian thing today, but this is why this guy was such an easy mark for the Russians. Because he's just the most pathetic, any flattery, anything that builds up his ego, even when he needs to be saying, I will protect choice. He's like, but I'm the one who put the judges on the courts that got rid of it. He just can't help himself. So here again, he should be saying, I'm not a good debater. And but of course, to make him happy, his people have to say, for the little baby boy to smile, he's a terrific debater, and all they do is raise his expectations. This is just the dumbest bunch of dummies I've ever seen. But that's what happens when you're emotionally So
well, and he himself just, really, I think he's in such trouble with these debates, whether or not he shows up, because I think there is still a legit chance he bails on the debate coming next Tuesday.
I do too. He freaks out and he realizes he can't do it because he knows he can't stand, as we know, he's brought up the various aspects of her background, as we know. He can't stand a black woman is going to hand him his arse. She's a former prosecutor, has been brought up many times. She's a terrific debater. He's a goofball who's incoherent, and she will mock him for that. And he got her mic closed off while he's saying stupid things, but then her mic will be opened up and she can make fun of those stupid things. And she's quick at coming up with quips. I expect her, sorry, I should be doing, she's terrible. You guys, you should be ready. Kamala Harris cannot debate. Donald Trump is going to dominate her. What
she does so well is, well, that was a stupid thing you just said. Here's what actually is going to happen. And it's that little thing where you ignore the spoiled brat child throwing the temper tantrum and you move on to the adult talk. That's what's going to kill him in that debate.
You throw the one line and she'll do it. Well, that was kind of weird. And then go to, something like that will throw him off. Yes. And I'm sure they're practicing that because that's what she's done with those press releases or when she said things. And so she has those one lines that will jab at him and he'll lose it. And he just, they're going to sedate the hell out of him. So because just to get him not, so it'll be interesting because either he'll lose it and be screaming, or he'll be like the guy he was at that Detroit speech where he would, a week ago, he was like, "Hey man, the economy's not looking good. That Joe Biden, man, 107% of jobs created were for immigrants." He did actually say that, by the way, that 107%, because that's the person the Republicans thought was worthy of nomination.
Oh,
a guy that believes there's 107%.
We need to do a contest of what would be the best one-liner she could throw. Did you say hi to Tulsi for me? Oh, God, could you just imagine that would derail him? All right. Cliff Schecter. Cliff's Edge is the YouTube page. It is sensational. Great content every single day. Some days, 2 videos a day. Go out there, follow that. Get on the Patreon page. Help support Cliff Schecter as well. Cliff, my show is better when you're on it, my friend. Thank you very much.
And I feel better when I'm on it. So thanks for having me, bud.
That Cliff Schecter, kind enough to take some time with us today to talk about some things. And just if I, one of the things I'll take a quick moment here and kind of, I'm going to piggyback off of on there because by gosh, I didn't think about it. When he just said that, all she has to do is throw the word, well, that was weird, into that debate. And Trump is going to lose it. He's going to lose it. As a matter of fact, if she did that, can you imagine how angry he will get? Don't for 1 second, do not think for 1 second that line's not going to come out. I mean, as a matter of fact, Walz today was in a Pennsylvania grocery store. He's talking to the baker there and talking about the donuts there, and they're talking about donuts, and he's looking at the donut options that he has, and he says, well, as you can look at me, you can clearly see I'm a guy that likes donuts. Then eventually pick up some pumpkin donuts. I said, we'll take the pumpkin donuts. Does it look like I'm a guy that doesn't know how to order donuts? And it's little things like that which are just lethal, because you can't come back from that. It's just, I don't think Trump's going to do the debate. I think Cliff's on. I think Cliff and I keep thinking that he's already starting to say ABC is the least fair, worst network available. They're horrible. I think he's laying the groundwork for him to bail on this debate. Now, I hope he doesn't. We're doing a live event here in Minneapolis, St. Paul with the debate, so I kind of want this debate to go on. But yeah, man, dude. That is, oh God, just watching him flounder. Because it doesn't matter. You can prep Trump all you can. All you have to do is shake the proverbial keys in front of him. He's going to forget everything that he was taught, and he's going to go, let me tell you something about what I'm really good at. And I still think there's a legit chance that if Trump gets mad enough, he will use a derogatory term against Kamala Harris, whether against her being a woman or against her being a minority. And he will, and of course then comes it wasn't really that bad. And that's not just from the right-wing news. That's going to be from like the Times and the Washington Post. They're going to be, we shouldn't judge. Oh, please. Mark my word, that's going to be interesting. Chicago, Seattle, talk to you tomorrow. Minneapolis, St. Paul, hour 2 up next. Hour number 2 of the show here on the Thursday. Matt, Patrick, good to have you here today. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. I want to start off with a story here because this is, if I'm hoping, I really am hoping that this isn't what it sounds like, where we could be looking at, I'll let you make the determination here. Ancient skeletal remains of at least 3 people were recently uncovered along the shores of a northern Minnesota lake, and police are investigating whether there should be criminal charges for unearthing remains in a cultural site. Deputies with the Cass County Sheriff's Office responded to a little after 6 p.m. on August 31st to the shores of Leech Lake after a group of wild rice farmers in Gould Township found the human remains. The Sheriff's Office said in a joint news release with the Leech Land Band of Ojibwe tribal police, the deputies found at least 3 individuals' skeletal remains. They are believed to be several hundred years old. Okay, so we're not talking recent issue here. Talking, historic relics and burial grounds on Leech Lake. The Leech Lake Heritage Sites Program and the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council were contacted, and the remains were secured. The specific location of the remains is not being disclosed at this time, but it was a cultural site, the Sheriff's Office and Police Department said. The Leech Lake Band's police chief, Kenneth Washington, said it currently seems unlikely there will be criminal charges for the people who discovered the remains. He said it's suspected the remains were naturally unearthed over time, hopefully. And it's not that it's good, but it's better than the alternate here, isn't it? We're thinking it was more along the lines of natural erosion that may have occurred. Cass County Sheriff Brian Welk said, however, that the discovery by the farmers is still under investigation. I won't say it's out of the realm that there could be charges for those who found the remains. The agency warned that knowingly disturbing cultural sites or cemeteries can have criminal or civil repercussions, and urged the public to not disturb the area and contact police if they encounter suspected human remains. Now, once again, it's unfortunate it happened, but if this is the scenario, let's hope this is the scenario. Just erosion happened, and they were out collecting the wild rice, and they noticed, hey, what's going on over there? And they go check it out. It's like, okay, let's call in case someone had disturbed it. They have the people come on out. Hopefully, no, this looks like erosion. Okay, we're going to make sure that these victims, their bodies are interred correctly. So let's get involved the Native American groups, and we're done. Done. Perfect. My generational family, it is a crime how much they disrespected the Native American sacred sites. And I mean, my goodness, there are golf courses where Indian mounds were the tee off for holes, for goodness sakes. Yeah, it's not good. And then multiple times, developers, up until, a few decades ago, developers would just plow through that stuff. It's something, I can very, 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 very much understand the Native American group's sensitivity about this issue, 100% considering how desecrated Native American culture has been in this country. But hopefully this is just a case of erosion, and thank goodness the Native American groups are involved, and they can, once again, rebury these individuals with the proper ceremonial rites, and good. So there you go. I want to put that out there just because don't be doing that, man. I think that there are still people out there who think that it's a good idea to go and invade historical sites for indigenous peoples and, under the idea of you're a modern day Indiana Jones, and you're not. All you're doing is violating violating a lot of rules and laws. So don't do that. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. I want to bring up something that Cliff and I talked about briefly. And it has to do with Minnesota here, but it also has to do with some other states here too. And I just kind of want to go over this because we were talking about how in some states, clearly the Trump campaign is pulling out of some states that they are no longer considering them winnable. And really, if you're looking at this upcoming presidential election, there is a lot of tell that you can see that they are now, the Republican Party is having to spend money in North Carolina. I guarantee you when this entire campaign started, they had no money really dedicated to North Carolina or minimum funds. The fact that they're running ads in Florida, they're running ads in Texas, that is not a good sign for the Republicans. If the Republicans are running ads in Minnesota, Trump's running ads in Minnesota, that's a dangerous sign for the Democrats. But if they're having to run ads in Texas and Florida, that's a bad sign for their campaign. Good for me. New Hampshire. Trump's campaign appears to be drawing down its operations. The top volunteer emailed fellow volunteers to say the campaign has determined that New Hampshire is no longer a battleground state. The staff should redirect campaign efforts to Pennsylvania. The campaign denies the volunteers' assertion and says its New Hampshire headquarters in Manchester remains open and operational. They're done in Manchester. Trust me when I say, when the guy sent that email talking about get everything into Pennsylvania, most of the stuff was already probably down in Pennsylvania already. Virginia, Trump and Vance both held rallies in the state this summer before Harris's emergence. Trump was in Chesapeake, Virginia, I should say, June 28th, the day after his debate with Biden. Vance's solo appearance was Trump's vice presidential nominee was in Radford, Virginia, July 22nd. Trump's campaign continues to talk up the chances in Virginia, where polls suggest Harris has turned Trump's lead into a small but significant advantage for her. I truly believe we're going to win the state, Trump's son Eric said recently. It's Eric, Yeah. But in the past 6 weeks, Trump hasn't held a rally in Virginia. His campaign appears to have stopped putting out memos that cite internal polls while claiming the state is flippable. They are now spending money in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and in states where it previously appeared they wouldn't have to use many resources to win. In North Carolina, for example, the campaign in MAGA Inc., a supporting super PAC, has spent more than $16 million in North Carolina. Team Trump continues to build out the robust and moderate ground game ever. They said, our team is only expanding. We have new staff and offices. Well, not so much. Let's go to Minnesota. This is why I brought this up, because and this is from Axios, and there's some, insight to the state. The state Trump mentioned in his Truth Social post announcing Ohio Senator J.D. Vance as his running mate. Democrats and Republicans acknowledge the tides have shifted. Shortly after the Republican convention, Trump and Vance rallied in St. Cloud. About the same time, Trump's campaign bullishly said it would open 8 offices in the state and build out its staff. But most of the roughly dozen offices it lists in the state opened in May or June before the change in Democratic ticket, which includes Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as Harris's running mate. The campaign has announced the hiring of just 2 full-time staffers in Minnesota, a state director and a senior advisor, although the state party spokesperson told Axios the GOP has at least 14 full-time staffers dedicated to Trump's election. Now, once again, 14 people in a state of 5.7 million. Okay. Minnesota Republican Party Chair David Hahn acknowledges that the state party and Trump campaign have been working jointly with our local organizations to get those offices staffed up, but said the campaign remains invested in the state and is happy to have strong metrics on voter contacts and volunteer signups. So basically what he has said is that the Trump campaign has basically ceded things to the local Republican Party offices, which means they're pretty much done in Minnesota too. So once again, in stepping back for a second, that is a huge sign that they're only going to be focusing on Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. And if those 5 states really start. They have to sweep them. They have to sweep them. They can't lose that. And at that point, they can't lose that one electoral vote in Nebraska. So they're going to be flooding Omaha with ads. And we still have yet to talk about the fact that there's a decent chance Florida is going to get closer and Texas might get closer. And then there's Alaska. Someone pointed out Alaska seems to be like 3 or 4 points only for Trump, which is really weird. Imagine they have to spend money. We could end up waiting for Alaska results. Amazing. But there are other signs you can put out there that tell you that the Republicans are in trouble in Minnesota. Now, there's one that I have talked about a lot, and that is the fact that the Republican Party of Minnesota has yet to acknowledge or even mention Royce White, their U.S. Senate candidate, who won their primary back in August. It is September 5th. It is officially 2 months until the election, and neither the official Minnesota GOP Twitter page or Facebook page has mentioned Royce White since he won the primary. That's a huge red flag. That's their top ticket outside of Trump, and they're ignoring it. And if you look at historically, if you are hoping that Republicans in House races are going to be the decider, well, you've already lost 4 for sure. You're not going to win the 4 that the DFL has, and you're basically leaving Stauber out there, who once again he's a big Trump guy. He's Mr. I love Trump. Where are my knee pads? That's Pete Stauber. And then the Beeve down in 1, he apparently, someone mentioned to me, he's acting like he's not even running right now. He's terrified to bring up the election. DFL, you need to get, I want to make a quick side note. DFL, do not think, well, Royce White's problems will speak for themselves. You're out thinking yourself. You got the money. Get out into these towns. Put Royce White's social media posts out there and say, Republicans endorse this. Do it across the state. Seriously. You want to put these guys on their heels? You do this, and you'll probably take 1 in 8 from the Republicans. If you sit there and say, we don't have to spend any money at all, then you're allowing his bad record to go ignored. Do not allow Royce White and the Republicans to dictate the narrative of this election. They have given you the epitome of the lowest hanging fruit they can. You need to get out there and hammer on this guy and not just think that everybody's looking at it. You don't know that. You need to go on the offensive now and not wait. And all of a sudden say, boy, the fact that we didn't say anything about Royce White for 2 months was really kind of stupid. It's gotten closer than we thought. No, you have a chance to really trounce these guys come November, and you should do it and not just think about, well, maybe need to save a few bucks. Nope. You got the money. Get out there, every single district. You need to be putting billboards up with Royce White's social media posts and saying, endorsed by the Republican Party. Seriously. That is a lethal campaign. There is something interesting that happened. I'm going to take a break here, and we'll come on back. But there's something I noticed this morning, which if you don't understand, if you kind of don't follow politics a lot, it might not seem like much. But there's another massive red flag that the Republican Party of Minnesota is in complete disarray. And it involves a guy named Walter Hudson. I'll explain that when I do come back. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday.
3 rooms of carpet clean starting at $129. It's also the perfect time of year to get your air ducts taken care of. Throw in $75 off your air duct cleaning. Don't DIY it. Call the pros at Zero Res. Schedule your appointment at ZeroResMinnesota.com or call 952-ZERO-RES and say you want the AM 950 special. Backward or forward, it's the same. Zero Res.
Hi, I'm Corey Wisco, president of the Walshire. The Walshire excels as a memory care community in the Twin Cities, located in Bloomington, and we have a new location in Medina. But what makes Walshire so different is the people that we have working for us. Our team has been together for the past 25 years providing this type of care. We employ some of the most amazing nurses and LPNs that are in the building 24 hours a day. We also have an activity team that is over 40 people. And our scheduling begins at 9 o'clock in the morning for activities, and it goes to 7, 8 o'clock at night. And that's 7 days a week. You won't find that. That is why many of the families that come to Walshire are actually coming from another memory care facility. Not all memory care is created equally. And that's why I encourage you, if you've had issues and problems at other places, come see what makes us so special. Please visit thewalshiremn.com and book a tour.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, it's Matt McNeil Show. So, as I was mentioning before the break, there are some signs that you can see that the Republican Party in Minnesota is frayed. On a national ticket level, the fact that Trump kind of seems to have moved everything out of here, and even the head of the GOP in the state has said, "Oh yeah, we're now working with local parties here." That just tells you that the national party is not coordinating anything here. They've already kind of given up on Minnesota. I brought up the Royce White problem. Royce White is their U.S. Senate candidate to take on Amy Klobuchar, and they haven't even mentioned or acknowledged him on their Twitter and Facebook pages since he won the primary. That's another huge red flag. So this morning I was doing my daily post pointing out that here's another day where the Republican Party of Minnesota has yet to acknowledge Royce White. And I went to the Minnesota GOP Twitter page, and I saw this little gem of a press release from the Minnesota GOP. Minnesota GOP announces the hiring of Representative Walter Hudson. Chairman Hahn announced today that Representative Hudson has been hired as the Minnesota GOP's new Strategic Outreach and Engagement Director. We are excited to be adding to our team there at the Minnesota GOP, and we work tirelessly to turn out every Republican vote for our candidates up and down the ticket. We are especially excited that Representative Walter Hudson is the newest addition, said Han. He has been the strongest conservative voice in the legislature for many years. We are grateful for his willingness to help build coalitions with non-traditional Republican voters across Minnesota. Hudson then added, with President Trump's race getting closer each day, the race in the 2nd District remaining one of the more competitive ones, a handful of Minnesota House seats to pick up the majority, and one very competitive Minnesota Senate race that will decide control of the Senate. Sure it is. We are committed. By the way, who's running in that Senate race? Okay, I don't see that listed here. We are committed to turning out every Republican vote. I am excited to connect with voters throughout Minnesota and share our values so that we can elect conservative representatives in St. Paul and D.C. The addition of Representative Hudson to the party follows nearly 24 other staff additions to the party's operations, as there have been significant shifts among Minnesota voters. Yeah. That is a interesting press release. And it's interesting because what it does say. Now, let me talk a little bit about Walter Hudson, all right? Now, Walt has been desperately trying to get my attention on social media. And as a matter of fact, I've muted him. Why? Because he's worthless. And he doesn't add anything to a debate. He is one of those guys that has a social media account that's there for self-affirmation. He basically just, he posts stuff out there not because it's good or right. He's looking for reaction, and he's looking to either upset Democrats or basically get his fawning local supporters, which are about 12 of them, to sit there and say, "You're the best! You are the best!" And that's what he's looking for. I mean, and for me to give him time or attention is pointless. And the reason why is because he doesn't add anything to my day. He doesn't add anything to anyone's days. He wants my followers. He wants my people to see him. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to play. You want to say stupid things, you can say stupid things all day long. I can just ignore you because you're worthless. In a world of 8 billion people, trust me, Walt, you rank somewhere around a billion, maybe 1,200,000,000. You are not that important. So I'm wasting my time interacting with you. So fetch ain't going to happen there, Walt. Now, that being said, Walt has a history of saying things which are pretty outlandish. And just so you can go find them yourselves, I'll explain. These are just some of the ones I pulled up today. Just some of them. Blue Stem Prairie from November 26, 2013. Current state representative, former DNR officer Tony Cornish might think about having a talk with North Star Tea Party Patriots founder, Republican Liberty Caucus Minnesota director, and current regional chair of the Republican Party in Wright County, Walter Hudson, who suggests on his podcast today that public hunting lands should be sold to private hunters, while hunting and fishing licenses and game laws should be eliminated. Hudson believes that the elimination of hunting and fishing licenses, seasons, and other regulations would not lead to the endangerment of native species because private landowners and hunters would prize the resources and manage them in a responsible manner, just as livestock producers make sure supermarkets are stocked with abundant turkey, beef, chicken, and pork. All right, you clearly don't understand why we regulate hunting because, let's just make sure we understand. There were buffalo everywhere in this country. Everywhere in this country. And they basically almost wiped them out completely. They would just shoot at them from trains because they weren't concerned about making sure the population stayed there. It was sport. And they did that. And it's what we've learned is that if we don't have regulations in there, no, you can't trust people because then they're shooting 20 ducks and 15 pheasants and they're catching 17 walleye. And all of a sudden there's no walleye left and there's no pheasants left and there's no ducks left. And they got 8 deer. So that was one. But that was a while back. That was a while back. Man, let's get something a little closer to now. Okay, let's go to MinnPost. December 14th, 2022. From KSTP TV, during a meeting on Sunday conducted by a group Mask Off Minnesota, Representative Walter Hudson compared medical professionals and others who recommend the COVID-19 vaccine to plantation owners who enslave black people. Once again, doctors and medical professionals who recommended getting the COVID vaccine, not forced anyone, just said, hey, you probably should get that. He says that's like people who enslave black people. The plantation owner who said, I need cotton and you're going to pick it, is morally equivalent to the person today who says, I don't want to get sick, so you have to take the jab. Just to make clear he wasn't misunderstood, Hudson repeated what he just said. I want to be clear. I mean exactly what I just said, okay? It's not a gaffe. I mean it. Wow. That's pretty offensive. But let's go to, maybe there's something else here. Bring me the news, June 26, 2022. Walter Hudson, a Republican-endorsed state representative candidate running for a seat in House District 30A, has called for people who travel to other states for abortions to be arrested for murder and companies that help them to be charged with aiding and abetting murder. In a tweet Saturday, Hudson wrote, the obvious solution is arrest for murder upon return and arrest of executives for aiding and abetting. His remark was in response to a graphic showing numerous companies that have pledged to help finance employee travel for abortion. This was right after the abortion Roe v. Wade was overturned. Hudson, a member of the Albertville City Council, is a staunch anti-abortion activist. Once again, let me make sure I repeat. What was the position that he's going for there? That's checks notes. Strategic Outreach and Engagement Director. Okay, a staunch anti-abortionist in a state where 71% believe abortion should be illegal. Okay. Once again, this is a story from 2022. Hudson, a member of the Albertville City Council, is a staunch anti-abortion activist. In other tweets, he said, Dick's Sporting Goods desperately wants to kill children. Dick's has pledged up to $4,000 in travel expenses to employees and their families who live in a state where abortion is outlawed. Hudson also said J.P. Morgan and Chase, two more companies supporting employees who live in states where abortion is illegal, are tripping over themselves to suck babies' brains out of their skulls, rend them limb from limb, and toss their broken bodies into a dumpster. Boy, oh boy, can I tell you what, if one of the things that's important, I think, for the Minnesota GOP is getting those big corporate donations. I don't know if you want to take this guy over to Dick's Sporting Goods or J.P. Morgan or Chase, because yeah, that's he said all that. Fox 9. 6/16/2023. Speaking 5 days after Trump was indicted by a grand jury in Miami, Minnesota GOP Representative Walter Hudson used militaristic rhetoric to describe Democrats in a speech to the Republican seniors of Minnesota. While making no reference to Trump, Hudson, who has a background in conservative talk radio, is known for his bombastic style, referred to Democrats as un-American and accused them of engaging in demonic behavior. You're dealing with a party that has declared war on you. The goal of modern Democrats is to conquer you. What do I mean by that? Conquer you. Think about that. What's entailed in conquering a people. You're physically displacing them. Get out, go somewhere else, he said. Shorter afterwards, he added, what is to say that an institution or a community or a state or a nation is too white? What's the implication there? Well, we should have less white people? Well, how exactly are you going to go about doing that? When was that type of talk, that thought, ever gone to a positive, moral, righteous place? And so the reason why I'm dwelling on so long on this point is because it should set a stage in our heads to recognize that this is no longer politics as usual. This is no longer the Norman Rockwell painting with a guy standing up in a town hall meeting and speaking his mind in a room full of interested citizens who are engaged in good faith. This is war. It's war, and it's been war for a long time. That was, once again, Fox 9. From when was that? That was last year, June of last year. Heartland Signal from February of last year. During a faith and freedom gathering last month, Minnesota State Representative Walter Hudson openly accused Democrats of being Satanists that are trying to kill us all or control us. Is there a conspiracy to kill us all or control us? Hudson asked the audience. I would say it's not a conspiracy because they're just telling us that's what they're doing. Word of Life Ministries hosted a Q&A in which Republican constituents expressed concerns with the results of the 2022 midterm elections and the absence of predicated red wave. Participants and attendees asked questions about education, marijuana legalization, abortion, and the new Democratic trifecta in Minnesota. Hudson was responding to the question about conspiracy theory regarding the depopulation of the earth when he brought up satanic accusations. This is the other thing, my friend. He kind of blew my mind. This is another thing that, my friend, he kind of blew my mind. And I don't know if this is true or not, Hudson continued. Well, if you don't know if it's true or not, well, I guess, well, never mind. Hudson continued. He said that he had heard the actual Church of Satan, so like real Satanists, people who are openly satanic, that one of their, I don't know if you would call it a doctrine or methodology or what it is, but they believe that if you tell what they are going to do to you, it absolves them of any moral responsibility for it. And if that's true, it goes a long way towards explaining a lot of things that we've seen and are continuing to see because they do that. So, once again here, the brand new Republican Party Strategic Outreach and Engagement Director has basically said that Democrats are Satanists, okay? That he used this rhetoric. It's war. This is war. It's war. It's been war for a very long time. Yeah, doesn't sound threatening at all, does it? Yeah, not at all. I don't know where you get that idea. Called Dick's Sporting Goods wants to kill children. called for, murder charges against anyone going to a state where you can have an abortion and having one upon their return. Also, basically, were really grotesque with J.P. Morgan and Chase. He also basically, once again, called the people who recommend a COVID-19 vaccine as slave owners, and then basically doesn't know the first thing about hunting. This is an horrific hire. All right, I want to just be honest. This hiring Walter Hudson as your checks notes, strategic outreach and engagement director for the Minnesota GOP. This is one of the worst people you could hire for this. This is like the people that believe in eating other human beings saying, you know who we should get in there as our spokesperson? Hannibal Lecter. No, you don't do that. Now, I'm not saying Walter Hudson is Hannibal Lecter. I'm just saying an example of a group bringing in an extremist element of that group to be the spokesperson for strategic outreach and engagement director. That's all I said. That was very clear, wasn't it, Patrick? Thank you. He's giving me a nod. No, Walter Hudson has been an extremist. He's a guy that seems to be far more interested in being a Twitter troll than anything else. He looks at anyone that's not in his vein of mindset as a villain, and judging by some of his statements. And this is the guy that they think is going to reach out to, moderate Democrats and independents and win them over? Go with the Satanist thing, man. Go for it. There's one thing that this hire tells you. Walter Hudson was hired because no one else wanted this job. That's at least my impression. Because why would you hire a guy who is kind of the antithesis of strategic outreach and engagement director? You think Walter Hudson is going to go into House districts around the Twin Cities metro where it's maybe even 1 or 2 plus D in those districts, and he's going to bring out his basket of comments and win over the voters of those districts? You're going to lose votes because of Walter Hudson in those areas. It's yet another sign that this is going to annihilate the chances. Not only are the House Republicans not going to pick up the House, right now, I think you got to be concerned about how many House seats you're going to lose. It tells you everything about the mindset of the GOP. Whether that is because nobody else wanted the job, so here comes Walter Hudson. And by the way, you shouldn't have probably brought him in anyway, because you know why? It's because now that is now the standard for your outreach. You think you're going to be able to pry that leech off? My God, man. You should, whether it's because of this or if it's just because a handful of people said, let's get him. I will say this once again. DFL, if you're watching all this and you keep saying to yourself, well, we don't have to do anything, you're playing into their game. You need to get out there and go on the offensive. Here's the deal. You do this right now. You coat Minnesota in billboards with just, Royce White social media posts on them. Maybe you can throw a Walter Hudson media post on there or two. And you throw those across on billboards across the state of Minnesota. And you probably will not have to spend a dime after October 15th. I'd rather you did that, DFL, than wait till October 15th and realizing you're smug, we don't have to do anything, was a wrong attitude. You have a chance to pants these clowns, do it. Because they can't get out of their own way at this point. And if there's anything that tells me that they know that Minnesota is going bad, whether it's because no one else wanted this job or because the GOP actually wanted Walter Hudson in as the, once again, checks notes, strategic outreach and engagement director for the Minnesota GOP, they are broken. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday.
Step into a world of financial impact.
We should post some of the links to those stories so that, you know, if Walter Hudson shows up at your door in one of these swing districts house seats, you can ask him, hey, what was that about Satanists? What was that about Dick's Sporting Goods, man? What did you say about that? You know, and like I said, is there anything that makes less sense than in a day and age where clearly abortion rights are an issue the Republicans are getting trounced on, finding a guy who's such an extremist anti-abortionist that he is, that's your outreach director. I feel like the Minnesota GOP's new spokesperson, or their new tagline should be, the Minnesota GOP, we're giving up. You know, so that's what it feels like. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. A man charged with driving drunk in the Park Tavern's patio had at least 5 prior DWI convictions, according to multiple media reports. The driving record of Stephen Bailey, 56, is raising fresh questions about how Minnesota's drunken driving laws allowed him to hold a valid driver's license. The Sunday crash killed 2 people, injured several others. Minnesota had one of the highest rates of repeat DWI offenders in the nation, according to a 2017 MinPost story. At that time, about 25,000 state residents had 5 or more convictions. One person had 26. I remember when that story came on out, and all of us were like, 26? How is that even possible? Minnesota law does not have a provision that calls for permanent license revocation for certain numbers of DWI offenses. Why not? Seriously, why not? Is the alcohol lobby that big that you can't? I mean, because it would seem to me, all right, I have had multiple friends who have gotten 1 DWI. 1. It happens. You make an accident, you think to yourself, oh, I'm not driving drunk. You get pulled over, you get breathalyzed, boom. I don't know any friend who has 2. Now, I'm not saying there might not be some, but I don't know of anyone that has 2. And the people I know that had the 1, they do not mess around with that. Not anymore. This isn't about 1. This isn't about 1. This is about when do you say to yourselves, well, clearly this guy can't be trusted with a large metal and glass object that can easily kill people. I would say 3. And if you say to me, it's like, well, that's not fair. I had one when I was 18. Well, then you shouldn't have had one when you're 18. And if you had one when you're 18, why did you have a second one, which would get you to the 3rd one? It's not really that hard. If you're driving, don't drink. But, I want to go out to the sports bar. Then Uber or Lyft or taxi or get someone to give you a ride or walk or bike. Although I don't think you should be biking and drinking and biking either. That will get you killed. But there's plenty of options where you do not have to get behind the wheel of a vehicle. Metro Transit. Once again, fantastic email from a listener we got yesterday. Metro Transit. But 3. I would say at 3, you clearly have a problem and you can't be trusted with keys. I mean, that gives you 2. That gives you 2 mistakes. Minnesota needs to have one law like that. But those who get 3 drunken driving convictions in a 10-year period are required to use an ignition interlock, which requires drivers to blow into the tube to prove they haven't been drinking. for 3 to 6 years, according to the State Department of Public Safety. I've seen those things advertised. So wait a second here. We have people who are advertising these things knowing that there are people out there with 3 DWIs. We are freaking normalizing this crap way too easily. Way too easily. If drivers do not comply, they'll never regain driving privileges. Bailey, according to KARE 11 and the Star Tribune, had been convicted of driving under the influence in Wisconsin in 1985 at the age of 17. Drunken driving convictions in Minnesota followed in 93 and 1998, 2013 and 2015. The 2015 conviction came after a 2014 arrest. He had an ignition interlock installed in that arrest and had maintained a clean driving record until this weekend. Criminal defense attorney Joe Tamburino told Axios that losing a driver's license doesn't prevent drunken driving because some people will drive without a valid license. Bailey, according to KARE 11, got his 5th DWI while his driver's license was revoked. It doesn't mean we don't do a damn thing. Come on, I hate saying it, but saying, well, they might do it anyway, so there's no point in us trying even to stop this. I am tired of that mindset. It's why we got gun violence in our schools on a constant basis, and it's why we got these drunk driving problems. I don't want to hear it. And if the person has lost their license and they can't drive and they're caught driving, even if they haven't killed anybody with their car, then they get locked up for a year. Period. This is not rocket science, people. But this mentality of, well, they're going to drive anyway. Well, then, maybe we make it $100. If you see someone that shouldn't be driving a car, $100. There you go. Turn them in. Guarantee you, if some clown had their license revoked and drove to a bar, I guarantee you at least 4 or 5 people will say, hey, he shouldn't be driving. I could go for $100. It'd be a scramble for their cell phones. What we actually need, actually at least help prevent these robust traffic enforcement by law enforcement. But, okay, forget about the metro area where you have thousands of roads going in 1,000 different directions. In small towns, you have, what, a police force, maybe a county police force where you have 7, 8, 9 people? You can't, that's in a county, you can't even get to all the roads into one town with that. State Representative Brad Tabke posted on social media that if reelected in November, he'll introduce bills strengthening policies, consequences, and keeping dangerous drivers off of roads. Though he didn't have specific proposals yet, I stand with Brad Tabke. He's a good man. I don't think we treat drunk driving with the level of accountability that it needs right now, Tabke said to Axios. State Judiciary and Public Safety Committee chairs Ron Latz said although he's skeptical about increasing penalties will deter the crime, he expects lawmakers to take a closer look at existing laws and changes proposed by the state DWI task force and the public in the wake of the crash. Something like this is going to cause us to go back and see where we might have a gap in the statute and what we can do better. DWI laws can already lead to lengthy sentences and lifetime consequences for lifetime offenders. Yeah, but they're not getting them. I understand alcoholism is a disease, but you don't, just because someone's an alcoholic doesn't mean you say, well, we have to accept drinking and driving. And when I say it like that, the first thing in your mouth is, well, no one's saying that. Aren't you? Because it seems like a lot of people are making excuses why we can't solve this problem as opposed to telling us what we can do to solve this problem. I am tired. We just had the story yesterday of the bus driver up on the Iron Range, drinking and driving, drunk in the morning, driving a school bus full of kids. We're lucky that didn't end up in tragedy. I'm tired of people looking around and shrugging their shoulders. I want leaders that are going to freaking do something. It's the least we could do. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Take a break, come back, wrap up the show when we return. It's the Matt McNeil Show. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Final thing here, and KARE 11 did this is outstanding. This makes me laugh, but this also makes me sad because We have a school district which seems to be absolutely imploding, but it's imploding because apparently it sounds like it's a reality TV show. The Robbinsdale School Board had its first meeting Wednesday since the results of a scathing investigation into its members was released. The group, Red Cedar Consulting, found the members' conduct is so dysfunctional that they aren't fulfilling their duties and their actions are disrupting the district. The drama dates back months when some members first filed a series of complaints against one another in April. 3 months earlier, board chair Renee Bauman admitted to KARE 11's Jennifer Hoff the board was already in disarray. And despite the admonishment from the consulting group that performed the investigation and the board's own lawyer when the results were first read publicly last week, the chaos continued on Wednesday's meeting. No, you didn't. Some board members seemed confused about the process to make a motion and amend the agenda, while others stated they wanted to censor another person. Ultimately, the group approved to continue discussing the investigation results. I don't know what the magic potion is to have an olive branch stick on the table, said Bowman. What's worse is we believe in public education. All 7 of us have ideas this exactly the same. 4 members were elected last year, and Dr. Terry Stalock was approved by the district's newest superintendent in May. Many are hopeful she can right the ship as the district did hire dozens of new teachers and nearly closed a $17 million budget deficit this year. She is qualified, she's competent, she knows what she's doing, but it's clear to me that as board chair, we have a lot of work to do. A recent external investigation into the board found 6 of the 7 members responsible for violating its values and norms agreement, the district's lawyer telling them they are not leading by example. It's demoralizing to the organizations as a whole, said James Martin, Robbinsdale's counsel. Regardless of the genesis of the dysfunction or conduct perpetuating this, it's my professional opinion, it's got to stop. 2 school board members are up for re-election this fall. Another isn't running again. Bauman said that there are 5 new candidates vying for these 3 spots. She promised the school, will there be a rose ceremony? I don't know why my voice cracked. Mr. Simpson. She promised the school board members and parents, students, and staff that they're focused on finding peaceful resolutions and moving forward. It can be challenging, it can be trying, but I'm for the kids, said Bowman. They deserve a future. Now, I'm bringing this up because come on, guys. Come on. This is like when Bernie Sanders had to tell that senator from Oklahoma, sit down and shut up. You're a United States senator. Act like it. Because he wanted to fight the union guy. Let me, you guys, if you're there for the kids, then be there for the kids. If you're there for drama, then just resign your position and let somebody else take it over who's actually going to care about the kids. And no, it's if you're just saying that until they apologize, until I see them, until they're such a... No, if you're saying that, then you need to quit the job. Because your first job is, what's happened has happened. We need to make sure the kids of Robbinsdale are getting a quality education. And it doesn't sound like you guys are doing that at all. Native Roots Radio is up next. Have a good one. We are back on a Friday. Till then, see ya.